fun project to share with you today. If you are like me, you have scraps coming out your ears. As scrapbookers, we are going to have scraps, but we want to use them because I don't want to throw these away and be wasteful. I spent a lot of money for this paper. I want to make sure that I'm getting it used. So this is a fun stash buster, or scrap buster, I should say, project. And you've probably seen this or something similar to this. If you're familiar at all with the mixed media world, with junk journaling, art journaling, they call what I'm about to show you and make a masterboard collage, which is using scraps to create a collage. What I've always heard these called in the scrapbooking world, we used to do this all the time back in the day. When I first started scrapping, we called it Serendipity Paper. So this is what I'm talking about. These are two that I've completed already. And it's just creating a new background paper using your scraps. This is one, and this is another one I created. You can create them in all different kinds of styles, and they can have, like, this one is bright and cheerful and has a lot of contrast. This one is more neutral and subdued, with more muted colors, real soft and pretty. So, I mean, you can do all different kinds of styles of serendipity papers depending on what paper you choose to use. So the first step in this is selecting your scraps, because I have scraps here from all different manufacturers. They're all different colors, but where do you start? Like, what makes you choose what scrap? And I wanted to kind of walk you through my process. Usually I start with picking a paper that is multicolored, that has a lot of different colors in it, and then I select scraps based on, so what I started with here was this little tiny Vicky Bouton scrap that I had of these beautiful butterflies, and I kind of want to match the mood and feel of this little piece of paper. So this is what I chose. So I just chose things that would match. So there's a little bit of pink in here, and they don't have to match perfectly, but just, you know, kind of do your best. And also you want to choose different patterns and different scale of patterns. Like, this is a real tight scaled pattern with butterflies, so it's a pretty busy pattern. But here I have another pattern that is more spread out, more scattered, and so this would read, you know, not quite as busy, but it is a high contrast. So let's see, here, this has a really large scaled pattern on it, which is these roses. This is more of a medium scale pattern. This is an all over pattern, but it's more monochromatic. So, or, you know, it does have some contrast here, but it's what I would consider to be more of a little bit of a busy pattern, but more muted. Here is a pattern with a real tight grid. So as you see, I've got different scales of patterns, different, you know, like I said, from all different companies, all different manufacturers. And I'm just going to try to use these to create a unified design. So let's get started, and I'll start off showing you kind of my thinking, my process. You're going to use any 12 by 12. You don't even have to use 12 by 12. You can use scraps of white paper that maybe you have. I just want to start, I want to have a big substrate to glue all this on, and I want it to be pretty sturdy. And I'm going to be using my art glitter glue adhesive, just because you could use a glue stick such as this. You could probably use your ATG. I like using the glue better, more than this liquid glue, better than I like using anything else for this process. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and I like torn edges. for part of it. I don't tear the edges on every sheet of paper, and I'll show you that. But I do a lot of paper tearing because I want this to go pretty fast. I'm gonna put this paper underneath so I don't get glue all over my mat. And I'm going to just start gluing stuff down. And with this glue, a little goes a long way. You do not have to use a ton of glue. All right, so that's just my starting piece. That is just getting me started. And then I'm just going to keep going. Really, I feel like you do better at creating this, a cohesive looking design, if you don't sit there and overanalyze it and overthink it. I'm actually going to tear that in two. Another thing is you want to have balance in your composition. So if I have some yellow over here, I want to have the same thing over here. I want it to be represented throughout. So I just don't have one block of blue here and one block of yellow here. I want it to be interspersed and balanced. So, and I just keep going. I like to use my bone folder to just kind of make sure that everything's flat and adhere to this, the background paper or the white cardstock. I don't know if I finished that thought. You could use any paper that you want, an 8.5 by 11. You could just use scraps. You could use, like, if you have a paper pad and there's paper in there that you don't love, pull out one of those papers and put it to use. You could use that as your background. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit of this green, and I like to use my ruler to just tear it. It just makes it go faster. And once you have a stash of these, after I show you this process, this is probably going to be a video in itself, but I will show you in an upcoming video things you can do with this Serendipity paper. Like, it's not just something pretty to look at. I'm actually going to put this to use and make things with it to go on my scrapbook pages. So this is actually probably going to be maybe 2 or 3 videos showing you what I do with these papers. Let me see that one. So I'm going to start over here because I already have this over here and I don't want them bunched up, right? I don't want this pattern super close to this pattern. I want them more spread out. And there's really not any rhyme or reason. Once you pick your paper and then you just start gluing. And as you see, I'm doing like long strips of paper, but then I disperse it around the whole page. So if I do something over here, I also want to do it over here. So I need to get some of this on this side of the paper. And so far, I'm already loving how this looks. I love these colors together. This is also so relaxing. Like, just take your time when you're doing this. Grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and it's pretty therapeutic just to sit here and glue paper without stressing over an outcome. Like, I feel like the joy of this is in the process of just gluing. And you may love what you come up with and you may hate it. You just don't know. But don't judge it until you're completely done with it and see what use you might have for it. Like we're going to do after this. Like, I don't know if I'm going to love how this turns out or not, but I might. And if I do, I've put my scraps to good use instead of them ending up in the trash can. And I'm gonna feel like a good steward over the things that I have, which and not being wasteful, which is always a good thing, right? All right, so I'm going to just fast forward the rest of this and just let you watch. And then at the end, when I'm completely done with this one, I'll come back and talk to you. Okay, I have finished this Serendipity paper, and I just wanted to kind of go over some of my thought processes as I was finishing this. As you saw, I started mostly with big papers and filled up quite a bit of area and just tried to make sure that I had a balance of color in all the different parts of the paper. And then I went in with smaller pieces. Like, I bet you thought my whole inspiration for this was this paper right here from Vicky Booten paper, and I didn't even use it till the very end. And sometimes that happens. You pick your papers and you're like, oh, you're not inspired. There was a whole lot of papers over here that I picked that I decided not to use, like this pink here, because I liked what I had going on here. I didn't want to add anything else to any other color or pattern. So this is what I ended up with. I think it's really pretty, and I can't wait to show you how I'm going to use it. So as you see, I have a lot of overhang, some excess paper. So I'm just gonna bring my big old trimmer over here and cut that excess paper off. And then you have the option, once you get this, just so you kind of see what you have, what the finished product is going to look like. And then you can look at it again and see, do I need to add anything? And in the collage, artsy, art journal, mixed media world, a lot of people like to bring out their stamps at this stage and start stamping around the page. And you could totally do that even for scrapbooking purposes. It's still pretty, but I feel like I have a lot going on here already, a lot of patterns, a lot of colors. I don't feel like it needs anything else, except I do want to go and stitch it. I think my camera's going in and out of focus. I'm sorry if it's been doing that the whole time. On this one and this one, you will see I went and took it to my sewing machine and stitched it. This is totally optional. And I just did some crazy stitching all around the page. This one is with white thread, so it's a lot more subtle than, but you can see I took it to the sewing machine and just did some zigzag stitching all around it. And that is completely optional. You do not have to do that, but I do want to do it with this one. I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, run it through, and I will be right back. I am going to use a white thread with this one just because I don't want to add any more contrast. This one, I chose black thread because I already had some black and white, and it's already, you know, bright and cheerful, and it's got a lot of energy. So I thought the black thread would give it a, you know, add to that effect. So this one I want to be a little more subtle, a little more subdued, so I'm going to choose my white thread, and I will be right back. Okay, I just got back from the sewing machine and added some stitching, which is really subtle. And again, this is completely optional and not necessary to do this project. I just love the look of stitching on my layouts, and I just love the look of stitching, and it just adds a little, I feel like it just gives it another little layer of texture, which I really enjoy. So that is how you make a serendipity paper or a masterboard collage, whatever you would like to call it. If you want to be fancy, you can call it a masterboard collage, but it's serendipity because it's serendipitous however the scraps land on your paper. And we are going to use these. I'm going to have a video coming up tomorrow in this series. Well, I'm not sure how many it's going to take, but we're going to do, I know tomorrow will be one. It'll probably be a series of 2 or 3 videos and show you how to use these. So today I challenge you to pull out some scraps and make yourself a serendipity paper. And also in the comments below, if you would like to tell me which one do you like the best, which one of these collages, or maybe you don't like any of them and this project is not for you, but that's okay. No, not every project is for every scrapbooker, right? So, but I've really enjoyed this, and I think even if you don't like how it turns out, there's value in just using your scraps, having just relaxing, not stressing about where you're putting the paper, and just seeing what comes out. So I feel like they turn out better when you don't overthink it. So start with your bigger scraps and move down to your little scraps. That's the last tip I'll give you. So that is all I think I have to say. And I figured out why it was going in and out of focus, and I'm sorry if that was very distracting. It's because I had it in cinematic mode, so I know better now. Just be careful when you're filming that you're not in cinematic mode. You're just in regular old video. All right, guys, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day. Bye.